Your teacher in your lesson recently told you that you're going to transition from A and E string to the D and G string. Now, this is a very exciting moment in your violin development because you're starting to open up all sorts of possibilities on playing the violin. You're not just limited to the A and E string, but to the D and G string. Now, I want to address the string crossings in this video on how you get from pieces like Minuet 1 or Minuet 3 or even Gavotte in the end of Suzuki Book 1 to help you get the best string crossings possible. Stick around to the end of the video, you don't want to miss it. String crossings are not as difficult as it may seem. So there are a couple pinpoints that I want you to think about when you're doing a string crossing. It goes back to your early stages as a violinist. And on the channel, I've been talking about having a steady elbow height from E string to G string. Here's a challenge for you. How many elbow heights do you think there are on the violin? You'll know when you get the right answer when I hit the like button on your comment. So that's step number one, is understanding your elbow height while you're playing the violin. That's rule number one. And once we start on the E string, then we go to the A string, and then we go to the D string, and then we end up here. A lot of times beginners just feel like, oh yeah, my E string setup is here, but then I see a lot of this. Now this is no good. We want the stick to be away from us because we have this really beautiful bow hold that we worked on for so long, probably like over a year, because this guy is really tough to get, having all the fingers nice and curvy. The moment we have students going to the D string, they feel like they can cheat the system and just go up this way. Now this is no good because when I do a down bow, my bow goes sideways because most likely it's very difficult for the student to extend that arm. And usually they end up doing a runner's arm. I like to call that runner's arm. So once you have that bow hold ready, you are trying to establish what elbow height is good for you. So for me, if I'm playing on the D string, I am lifting my arm up, not my elbow. I want to be clear about that. It's not just the elbow lifting up, it's the entire forearm. And I'm very specific about the language that I use in my lessons, because if I use my forearm, the kids naturally understand, okay, this is my forearm, I have to lift the forearm, then the elbow and the other rest of the arm really kind of follow suit. If I just do the elbow right over here, then it's not balanced. The whole bow hold is not balanced. The entire elbow is up here. The shoulder might get very tired because your arm is too high. So I want you to be really clear and careful about this, that we do not want to lift the elbow too much, because what will happen is that we're also pressing down a lot more and we will also shake our bow. We definitely don't want that. So once we're on the D string, it's the same principle as playing on the A string and the E string. You're gonna simply extend that arm ever so slightly, and you're gonna extend the forearm, and you're going to naturally move that elbow. We just don't want to move the elbow too far to the back, because what will happen is that we're gonna squeeze our bicep here, and we're gonna go this way, and we're not gonna get a clear sound on the violin. So when we're playing the violin, we do nice perpendicular bow, same rules as A and E string. All we're doing is just simply lifting the arm up and making some sounds. And the same thing on the G string. We're lifting our forearm up and we're playing on the G string. Now you might be wondering, well, how do you get such a good sound on the D and G string? Well, it all comes back to the bow hold and the weight conversation. So when you're on the D string, you are going to be using the natural weight of your arm, and you're not going to be pressing or squeezing or tightening up any sort of part of your finger or your right hand. All you're doing is you're just relaxing. The one example I like to do with my students, I like to take a deep breath and then breathe out, so that way they feel that cushion, and all I gotta do is just put my head on the chin rest. And now I want to be clear that when you're making a sound, I'm making a sound in the lower half of the violin bow. I'm not going too far to the tip just yet, because if you're not comfortable with the extending that part of the bicep, which meets the corner of your forearm right over here, that's gonna be an effect on you. So I like to just start out in the lower half, making sure that my sound is correct, it's sounding good. And then of course I'm gonna lift up to the G string and do the exact same thing. Because if I'm going over here, you notice that my sound kind of decays throughout the duration of the bow. Of course, when we're doing a long bow, there's an extra level of lifting up that elbow when we're really trying to sustain a note. That's not what I'm going for here. We're just talking about string crossings. So when we go to string crossings from A to E, for instance, and let me show you on the D string. When I play D, I'm gonna put my arm on the A. My fingers are not really doing anything yet. That is the next level tip that I'm going to suggest in a future video, because eventually you'll do that, but that requires a level of flexibility that not all beginner students have. So when I'm trying to do string crossings, I'm doing more of a forearm motion, and I'm forearm extend, and then I'm doing the same thing. What I'm not doing is, that is a pretty common issue amongst violinists recently in my violin studio, that they do a string crossing, but they bring that elbow back. I mean, you're still making sounds, but it's not a crisp, clean, clear sound that I usually go for in my violin lessons with my youngsters and my adult beginners and everyone in between. That is really the key here, that we want a nice, clear sound when we go from G to A. I meant D to A. And then you go from G to D. And all you're doing, you're just moving this forearm up and down. You're not... That's another issue when you start extending that forearm, but see if you can really try to use your arm to really make that string crossing happen. There you have it. That is how you make a string crossing, a clean string crossing on the violin. Now, if you like this video, leave a comment down below. What was your favorite part of the video? Is there something that is bothering you in your violin playing that you want to improve on that I haven't really talked about yet? I encourage you to start the conversation down below. And if you're new to this violin community, my name is Eric. I'm a violinist. I do violin tutorials, how-to tips, and more violin-related content. If you're not subscribed, I encourage you to subscribe to the community. Hit the bell notification so that way you get notified for when new videos come out. So that way I can help you become a better violinist. And also, if you haven't watched my recent videos, I'm going to leave videos right over here and right over here for you to take a look at to help you become a better violinist. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.